Okay, so first thing on the agenda, as always, is announcements. So this is this is my last meeting as officially the president of koha-US. At the end of the meeting, Lizette becomes the president, Rhonda becomes the vice president, Fred stops being the member at large unsupported, and Elaine becomes the member at large unsupported. And Jason remains in his final term as the secretary. So I think that's everybody. 2, 3, 4. Oh, and Megan stays on. She's the member at large supported from a supported organization. So
yeah, I wish I could wave goodbye. If I had an extra hour, I'd reboot my computer.
That's okay. Did you compose a poem for the occasion?
I tried, but I couldn't think of one.
Darn.
It is an ancient sysadmin. He stoppeth one of three. But I couldn't get beyond that.
Okay. Any other announcements?
The first patches that I wrote for Koha are in the version that released at the end of November.
Well, that's awesome.
I'm doing that too. You just can't see.
Oh, I thought you would be doing a handstand. All right, if there are no more announcements, we have to do something to make this official board election results. So Jason has to, we have to put those in the minutes as part of the, they need to be in the minutes for part of the nonprofit paperwork. So Jason, go ahead.
Oh, I actually don't have the details. I think Lizette does. 30 votes,
okay.
right?
No, we got 50. No, 30. You're right. Why did I think 50? Yeah, 30 votes, unanimous for all three positions.
So each, I think you have to read them out. It'd be
30
safest thing to
votes
do.
for Elaine Bradkey for unsupported member at large. No abstains. 30 for Jason Robb as secretary. No abstains. And 30 for Rhonda
Kuiper,
yeah. Rhonda Kuiper as vice president. No abstains.
All right.
Is there any evidence of foreign government interference in this election?
Just Russia. Don't worry about it.
I think
okay.
we might have one Canadian member, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're a member, so no borders here. So congratulations to everybody that gets to carry on for the next year. And that's all recorded in the minutes, so that's what we needed to accomplish there. So let's, member renewal. We should probably hold off on that until John's here, because John's the one that's actually doing the mechanical part of getting emails sent to everybody to renew them, asking to renew their membership. And the next one, 2020 budget narrative, that is also John's. So let's jump over that until he shows up in about 20 minutes. The next thing we've got on the agenda, though, is special interest / user groups.
So we've talked about this a few times, and we just wanted, to let you guys know again that if you have a special interest group that you're interested in running, we have, Google groups, and next year we'll have a official Zoom room. And so if you're interested in running a special interest or user group, regional or for a specific, we've got the great acquisitions one that Rhonda got started, but if there was like another thing that you really wanted to get people together on, we can help you with that.
One of the discussions we had about that at our board meeting the other day was that, we sent out a call for anybody that's interested in creating a special interest group to let us know, and we've had no responses to that. So this is just kind of a reminder. The the one group that did start was the acquisitions group, and that was really kind of a grassroots thing. So we have the resources to help a group if they want to get started. But so far we just haven't had any interest other than acquisitions. So
I think it was about maybe 2 weeks ago, there was somebody who jumped on the partners list for Bywater, the chat on Slack, Jennifer, and she's at Frontier Nursing, and she was looking to get active in other user groups besides acquisitions. They're brand new to Koha. They just went live maybe about 6 months ago. So I think the biggest part and always the hardest part is looking for people to lead those groups. Rhonda has so beautifully taken on acquisitions. We just need to find some more people that will help take on those leadership roles.
Yeah.
I know we're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I think Lizette and I both responded to that in the partners Slack. And I think Lizette, I don't remember what she said, but what I said is, why don't you come to a meeting? So hopefully, I don't see them here now, but if they can get involved, that'd be awesome. Let's see. Next thing on the agenda are the committee reports. So the conference committee, Lizette.
So I'm gonna do like backwards order from how it's on the agenda. The location proposal location form is still open. If you're interested in hosting, it's open until the 31st. Although, I mean, I probably won't actually turn it off until I'm back at work on the 2nd, but open until the 31st. And then if you have any questions, you can email info@koha-us.org. We've gotten questions from a couple of the prospective people that we answered, and we'll be meeting right after this meeting to talk about that and the other things also on our thing here. That we decided in our budget this year that we're going to send someone to ALA to run a booth at ALA. Well, we're going to have a booth. We're not going to send someone. People who are going to ALA will be asking if anyone wants to help man the booth. Todd already said he's going to be there. George said maybe.
There's about a 99% chance now.
Jesse's going to be there.
Jesse will be there.
And I think John said he was probably going and could help man the booth. But if anyone else is going and wants to help man the booth for a couple hours, let us know. And we'll talk about that at the conference committee again also after this meeting. And then in the spring, you might have seen that we asked for presentation proposals for an online Koha-a-thon conference, April 23rd. We're going to do it. It'll start at 8 a.m. Eastern time and end at 8 p.m. Pacific time. So it'll go for like 15 hours, I think it's the amount of time. And we're just asking people, how long of a presentation do you want to do? And then we can kind of build a schedule based on that. And then it'll also be like a fundraising effort, like old, like PBS, whatever thons, where they'd have someone in between each thing get up and talk about like, here's why you can help, here's how you can help us. So we'll talk about that also at the conference meeting.
So far, we have one person has submitted a proposal for a Koha-thon.
I was just going to say they announced it in the Koha general meeting today too, and IRC, the call for proposals, and encourage people to submit. So maybe we'll see a few more after that.
Cool. And those of us that are here, this is the perfect opportunity to recycle the presentation you did at last year's koha-US meeting if you want. Fred had said he was going to do his Raspberry Koha and a Raspberry Pi presentation. So there's all things that we can all probably do that we've done before, that this would be an opportunity to do it again to a different audience, a bigger audience, possibly an international audience. So, and we didn't put, I can't imagine somebody doing something less than 5 to 10 minutes, but we didn't put time restrictions on it really, other than, longer than a minute and less than an hour.
Yeah. If you have something small you want to talk about or something that, is going to take an hour, wherever in there that you think, it'll work.
Maybe I'll have my epic poem done by then.
A full hour, huh?
Whatever time is not filled with trainings or workshops or anything like that, Fred is going to fill.
I don't have that much poetry.
Not yet.
Or is that an incentive to get other people to join in? So
Yeah.
you're not
You've got
reading.
like 5 months. You can write more.
All right. Anything else from the conference committee? One thing I didn't hear mentioned was, right now the Kohathon people kind of met. The people that have been discussing that, we discussed it as part of an education committee meeting.
And then
we kind of put together just a quick ad hoc group to discuss that, but we're kind of going to roll that into the conference committee. That maybe not everybody in the conference committee wants to be a part of it, but kind of bring it under their umbrella since it is kind of a conference-y.
And we do have a lot of people, so maybe we can do like a subgroup or something.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right, next up would be the development committee. That would also be Lizette.
Yep. So the development that we were going to fund, Jonathan did it. It's pushed now into 2005. As of yesterday, I think it got past QA and pushed. And so hopefully next year we'll be able to do it a little bit faster, because part of our problem last year was that our form didn't end up having all the information we needed required. So we ended up having to go back and re-ask information of people. And actually that development should be opening in January, the development process. So if you think you have a development that you'd like to have koha-US either co-sponsor or maybe sponsor, maybe start thinking about that. And one of the things that we're requiring this time is a quote from a developer. So if you
are we giving the money to Jonathan?
We talked at the board meeting about like sending him a mug or something, like a koha-US, something out of the Threadless. So, but if you have a development that you think you want to fund or propose to get funded, we'll need a quote we're requiring a quote on the form. And if there's any other questions you have, you can email info@koha-us.org anytime if you want to know what else is going to be on the form. We haven't finalized that yet, but we should be doing that at our meeting this month.
I have several development ideas that I want to work on next year. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put those as development ideas for the development committee and just say, does koha-US want to contribute $100 to this? Something like that, so that koha-US's name will be on some things is kind of what I'm thinking of doing. So that's another way to, if my goal there is, I'm going to pay for the development anyway, so if I can ask koha-US to throw in $100 just so that it can have its name on something, then that would be a way that we can get our name on 3 or 4 different developments at a really low buy-in. So that way we get some credit.
Sounds good.
Anything else from the development committee then? What do you have a meeting scheduled?
No, I'm going to send out a doodle poll when I'm back in the office tomorrow. Because it would be the 20th. Well, really, I'll send out an email, or actually, let's see. I guess Alex isn't here and Joe's not here. Owen, would the 20th work for you? That's when it would be regularly scheduled. Anyway, I'll email. Oh, it's on the calendar on the 27th? That would work for me too. I'll email people.
The Friday after Christmas? Sounds like a great day to have a meeting.
Yeah, I'll be there. Sounds, if that would work for Owen, if that's what's on the calendar. I'm at home today, so my calendar is away from me.
Well, Owen mentioned something in the chat there. He says, I see it on the calendar on the 27th, but the 20th would work for him. So
I'll email the other members.
Yeah. Like if you're going to have it the Friday after Christmas, I think you want to have it like at 4:30 and 4:45 in the afternoon, Friday after Christmas. That'll get you the least turnout possible.
Okay.
All right. So if nothing else from the development committee, next up would be the education committee.
We met on November 20th, and we first started by talking about some of our follow-up from the education committee meeting that we had at the koha-US conference. Some of the ideas were about having a webinar on how to use the sandboxes so people could go in and test bugs and sign off on them. I asked both Kyle Hall and Nick Clemens if they'd be willing to do that for us, and they will be doing it for us. I'm just trying to nail down dates that they can both attend. So as soon as we have those dates, we'll get that out and sent out to all the koha-US members, and we'll have a webinar for that.
Cool.
We also talked a lot about the Koathon that was mentioned earlier and getting that set up. Our next meeting will be on, I think, December 18th. Let me confirm that. Yes, December 18th. And we also discussed a little bit about the education meeting that was held by the community. So trainers and educators from all over the world that use Koha met, and they just talked about different resources that are available on both the Koha Wiki, and I'll put those in the chat box if anyone else is interested. There's training resources and documentation that is available. So David Nind and a few others, Caroline, some folks from Bywater, have really been heading up getting that information in one place and making it easier to kind of streamline it. So I'll put those in the chat box if anyone else is interested. That's it for education.
Trying to find my window again. There you all are. You all disappeared for a second. All right, next up then would be the fundraising committee. And I see Todd is here, so take it away, Todd. Todd may not have access to a microphone today, I guess. So I wasn't at the fundraising committee. I know one of the things that was that's on the list here is talking about Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday was, for how quickly we put Giving Tuesday together, it was actually pretty successful.
George, sorry, I was on another call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was hopeful John was going to be here because he could talk more to it. But
he'll be here in about 7 minutes.
What's that? What did you say?
He'll be here in about 7 or 8 minutes. He was going to get here about.
I'll let him expound a little bit more on it. I'm sure he'd like to because that's kind of his bailiwick anyways, the finance. But yeah, with I think the 2 weeks that we had to get everything set up and rolling, I think we showed one that we need more time and more preparation. So I'm looking forward to that next year. And but we did bring in $1,400. I think maybe $50 of that went to PayPal for the sources and the resources that they offer. But not bad. I think we're doing a little follow-up right now. Lisette might have sent something out to the board regarding end-of-year fundraising drive.
Emailed the board yesterday about it and hadn't heard back from anyone. I copied Rhonda on it as well since she's not on the board lists yet.
So if the board can respond back to Lisette, see if we can just send out a couple more emails and see if we can make a little bit more of a request from from members, and also Jay-Z is sending it out to all of our partners and on the partner list. She's going to be doing that through Contact Us, letting them know that there's an end of year fundraising drive through koha-US and try to see if we can get some people to come in and assist.
Cool.
Other
Also-
things that are happening, I've got a couple classes I'm going to be going to for fundraising and grants. They'll be taking place. Looking forward to the new president and vice president in place and seeing if we can get some fundraising efforts rolling. And yeah, Koathon. Please, if you have any interests, we want it to be fun. So if you've got some creative ideas, you've got some fun stuff. I mean, I'm even thinking about dressing up like a chicken when I'm doing some of the fundraising stuff. I wish we had a koha, if it was a koha koala or a koha kiwi, if I could dress up in that suit and just try to do some fundraising. You know, anything that makes it enthusiastic for people to want to participate, get involved, enjoy it. I think the more creative we are, the better it will be. A little creativity with a little bit of seriousness with some of our presentations, I think is a really nice thing. It's kind of like chocolate with salt. They just kind of work together.
Yes, in last week's meeting, I reported on my search for a cute animal to go under the koha-US hat. I actually thought it should be an American animal since it's koha-US. And was it George who suggested the possum?
Yeah, Jason created a really awesome mock-up for us to look at. It's really kind of terrifying.
I saved it, of course.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. Me too.
The only thing, I like possums, but the only thing I mean, possums are notorious and known to be sleepers. I don't want
They also are crawling with vermin. They metabolize anesthetic very slowly, and their jaw muscles are so powerful they can break their own bones.
Yes.
Walking zoological gardens, someone described them.
So anyways, if anybody has any interest and would like to come in and work with Koathon and the conference committee, it'd be great.
That's what we're not doing.
I'd also like to, and my apologies because I've been on the phone, we had some upgrades happening this morning and we need to respond to some partners, so I haven't been 100% participatory in this meeting, but did we already touch on development?
Yes.
I'd like to go back real quick and just, Owen, I'm throwing you under the bus. Owen has opened himself up for developments. He seemed to have some interest. Maybe he can expound on that in a development committee meeting. But he does have some interest in doing some development on the side. So I think that's kind of nice. We were talking about vetting developers that we might be able to use, but we've got one of the premier developers already as a member of our koha-US 501c3. So it'd be great if we could maybe find ways to more broadly use Owen, his input and his development on maybe even trying to help with the committee a little bit more and seeing if he can help us, if there are others that might be interested in maybe vetting these developers. But I just wanted to open it up to the group here and let them know that Owen does have some interest. Owen, if you want to retract that at this point, maybe now's a good time to put something in chat. But anyways, just an FYI.
Okay. And Owen says, great, now I have to recuse myself from all development meetings. Big sticking tongue out emoji, I guess it is. So the chat window is always so small. The other things that are on the agenda here that we haven't covered yet are things that we need John for, and John's not here. So I was going to bring this up in open discussion, so maybe I'll bring it up now and put it out there as a separate topic. I got here this morning with a plan on going to the IRC meeting at 8 o'clock this morning, and then things got sidetracked, and I went in late, and then I had to leave early, and I was in and out of IRC all morning. But there was a discussion. I just put a link to the log of that meeting up in the window. There became a discussion at one point about the developments, about the release cycle, and some people in the community talking about doing like a longer stable release, like having the stable release be stable. At one point it was suggested 18 months, having a version that, you know, is stable for about 18 months. And then others talked about doing like a continuous development cycle where the really, you know, new features are added like monthly instead of, you know, a couple of times a year. And developments are just, you know, added as they're created on a more regular cycle. And there was a debate going on back and forth. And like I said, I was in the meeting, I got there late, and then I had to answer the phone, and so I wasn't paying attention, and I had to do something else. And so I was only looking at the meeting every few minutes out of the corner of my eye. And what I noticed, though, more than anything, is that, you know, this is something that would have a big impact on libraries, and the only people really talking about it in the meeting were developers and people that work for like Bywater and Calix and, you know, companies that do support. So there wasn't any input on this thing that would have a huge impact on libraries from actual people that work at libraries. It was all developers and support people. There might have been a few library people there, but so that's something that I think we need to pay attention, and we need to keep an eye on, you know, because this would have a huge impact on, you know, if we were getting new features like every couple of months, you know, that would be a huge impact on my staff for training issues. And I can see, you know, the argument that people are saying other software systems are going this way, but, you know, for us in particular, and for, I'm sure, for Jason and Lizette and Christopher, and, you know, people that work for large consortiums, you know, training is a big hurdle for us every time there's issues. And Owen does point out in the chat here, it was raised in the IRC meeting in order to open it up to the entire community, not just developers. But that's why I wanted to bring it up here, is so that we can make sure that we keep an eye on this issue. At the end of the discussion, somebody was going to summarize kind of what the options are. I don't remember who was going to do that, but they're going to put a wiki page to get input on this. On the wiki, I think was the plan. But that's something that we should, you know, if we have an opinion about this, we need to find a way to get in there and make that opinion known. So I don't know, what do you guys think about, you know, about these different options, you know, having longer stable releases? That was one of the proposals, is to have 2 tracks going, where there's a track where there's a release that stays stable for a long time, but then there's like a version that's always being updated continuously.
I'm trying to understand, with the master out there, what is the benefit to the developers to have it released so frequently?
I think the arguments that I read back over towards that was that that's what other software systems are doing. That's what other you know, softwares are doing.
Because, you know, as it stands, I mean, you know, if they were to do that, I would see libraries pushing back and saying, no, we don't want our system updated, you know, that frequently. We'll just stick with the schedule that we've had in the past. And then they just won't, you know, take any of those. So, you know, even if they were to release something else, you know, more frequently, you know, the libraries themselves could say, no, we're just going to update twice a year, and that's it. I mean, unless they're pushing these to where the libraries don't have any control, you know, which would be a totally different story.
Right.
I can't see them, if they were to do it, I can't see it impacting us, you know, unless we, you know, changed our update schedules ourselves.
Right. Well, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the discussion going on, and I think we should kind of try to keep an eye on it. That's, early on when I became the vice president, I was trying to make a point of going to the IRC meetings every month. And I just couldn't keep up with that schedule.
Some of the times are rough. Like the morning, I would have liked to go to the one this morning, but it's 5 a.m. here.
Right.
And that's a little early. But I'm reading through the log right now. There's also a global bug squashing day in January, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that was, I read a little bit of that, but I was more interested in the development issue because that was what they were talking about when I kind of entered the room. So, and that always, it's, 2 times a year is about all I can handle for training people on new features. I did 2 trainings last week and I did 1 yesterday and I got 1 tomorrow, and then I'm done with training our staff. We haven't upgraded yet. Our upgrade is scheduled for January, but Jason upgraded last night, so I saw that email. So, and I think almost everybody else did, right? That was Bywater's plan, was to upgrade everybody the same day, wasn't it? Or were you?
Not the same day. We had, we've got different servers in different time zones. So the goal was really, try to accommodate people kind of across the time zones at certain times throughout a given period. But yeah.
Okay.
Getting back to IRC for a moment, how many non-geek librarians actually use IRC? Yes, it's a good place to have a discussion, but how many koha users would have time or even know about it?
Well, that's Marty in the chat box says so very, very rarely, like never.
Well, they talked about that today at the IRC meeting too, that they're looking at maybe getting on like Rocket Chat or other more modern looking platforms. I think someone was going to set up a Rocket Chat that would link into the IRC channel still, so it would work for both.
You just muted yourself, was that?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened because I was just like.
I think you hit a button on the keyboard shortcut. So.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that was one of the discussions too, though, and actually Owen mentions that too. That issue was also raised in the meeting. There was a discussion about Rocket Chat. There was a brief kind of yes, Rocket Chat is. Owen says right now Rocket Chat is open source, which makes it preferable over Slack. I looked at Rocket Chat after the meeting was over, and Rocket Chat kind of looked to me like open source Slack. But I didn't look at it very closely. I could be completely wrong on that. So,
hey, I am curious. Should we think about having somebody maybe appointed from the board to work more closely with koha community?
Like I said, I tried to attend meetings when I was the vice president. Owen says he's got to go. So see you later, Owen. It's good having you here. Thanks for coming. I don't think it would hurt to say, there's, people, somebody should at least, we should have somebody that's like a correspondent or a person appointed to go to every, or try to go to every general meeting and report back to us as a group, what happened for the people that don't ever go to the general meetings or don't go to the IRC at all. I know that's one of the things that kind of the discussion in the meeting today too was, well, why don't people want to use IRC? And for me, it's like the same issue as, it's one of those things where there's too many. I have an issue with too many channels of communication. I've got email, I've got Slack, I use Zendesk. There's the IRC. There's just so many of them that it's hard to keep track of them all. It's hard to have them all open on the computer at the same time. So if the community moves to setting up a rocket chat system that would, add the IRC to that Slack-like interface. I don't know. That's another avenue of communication. The thing that I hate about the IRC is I don't use it often enough that I can remember what all the commands are.
Yes, I can never remember how to change my name to be away, so I always end up having to close it and then come back and open it again, so people don't think I'm ignoring them.
Can we get that on the agenda for the next board meeting? And Rhonda and Lisette can then spearhead that and see how we can get that rolling, and then see what we want to do in regards to maybe bringing it to the general meeting and see if we can get somebody, if there's a position that we can create for that.
I'm talking about having somebody that's the the Koha community liaison or something, position like that.
Yeah, this whole conversation, right.
All right, I think I see Jason's shoulder moving, so I think he's writing it on the agenda for the next board meeting.
Yep, I made a note.
Cool.
Jason?
Well, I see that John has appeared in the room, or at least somebody named John. I'm going to assume it's John Sturbins.
You would be correct. It is
awesome.
Me. You just never know sometimes.
Yeah, John is not an uncommon name. We skipped over a couple of things because they involved you, so let me jump back to the agenda. We skipped over membership renewal.
Membership renewal looks like it should be all set to go. The officers have been receiving a few different test runs, if you will, of the membership letter that was going to be set out, and they've kicked the tire on the membership renewal form. All of the information is ready to go on PayPal as well, and I've created, I haven't created the bit.ly yet. I just have to create the bit.ly, but the links that would go to PayPal in and of themselves have been created. So with a few minor corrections to things like the URL that I've had in the membership letter that is being generated to people, I think everything is going to be all set to go with membership, and I will plan on having that opened up by Friday. This has been just a hellacious week, and then my class ran, and that just took hellacious and put it to a whole new level. So as much as I was hoping maybe to get it done by today, it looks like Friday is going to be the better bet for that. What will happen is that all current members, 77 of us, yay, will get an email from the treasurer containing a PDF that is a membership renewal letter. Within that letter will be all of the information we have on file for you as was provided when you either applied for membership in 2019 or joined in 2018. If you're interested in renewing, we ask that that information be verified, and if all of the information we have on you is correct, renewing will be a very straightforward process of just saying, yes, the information is correct, reviewing your status as a mentor or somebody that would like to seek mentorship, and then a selection of how you would be paying your membership dues. With the new addition this year of being able to request an invoice instead of having to email me later and say, oh, by the way, I really need an invoice. So this time you'll see an option for that actually presented on the renewal form. And so that will be ready to go very shortly. The 77 invitations will go out first, but as the letter itself says, you are welcomed and encouraged to pass along the membership link to anybody within your organization that might be interested in joining, because while membership renewal is part of that process, there's also a path through the Google form, if you will, that accommodates new members and solicits their information so that they can join at that time. Membership dues for 2020 remain the same as they were for 2019, $25 for a full year. And That, of course, gives you voting rights within the organization, which includes a voice in where the upcoming conference will be held, as well as a voice in other matters as they come forward to membership, including, and perhaps of most interest to many current members, where the organization's discretionary and development funds should be directed based on the efforts of the development committee. So on behalf of the board, I, as the treasurer, hope that you will consider renewing your membership for next year. And if you are already a member, that link will be coming in an email from me probably sometime on Friday. And everything that you would need to be able to fill out or verify will be contained within that message. Just like this year, the memberships are going to be calendar year based. They start on January 1st or when your membership payment is received, whichever is later, and they will all automatically expire without automatic renewal on December 31st. So that's pretty much the basics of membership as it's going to be. It's pretty much the same. So if you renewed from 2018 into 2019, there really shouldn't be any surprises as to the information that we've got and what we're asking you to verify. We were small enough last year, though, that I didn't automate the process. It was very easy for me last year to only go through 32 and not do things using a script. With 77 of us, more than doubled in size, this year we'll be using a script to get the ball rolling and get all of that information out. So we look forward to seeing everybody back in 2020. Or if you're not a member yet, we look forward to welcoming you to the organization. Now George is muted. There we go.
Yes, now I'm not muted. Any questions for John on that?
Magnificently put, as always.
Cool. Let's see, we also skipped over then the 2020 budget.
The 2020 budget has been prepared. Jason very kindly provided a link to a PDF version of the narrative within the agenda. The budget is bigger this year. It's more complicated, and that, of course, represents the growth within us as an organization in and of itself. The numbers are still not really projected numbers in terms of being able to analyze trends because we still only really have one full year of budget to work with that's been finalized. As we move further and further away, this being our third prepared budget, we'll be able to have a little bit more mathematical background, if you will, in addition to a qualitative analysis to help determine how the budget will be drafted and sent. If you've also taken a look at the budget, you'll notice it's a lot more complicated than last year's. There are now categories and subcategories, which before we really didn't concern ourselves with. Now we are tracking these things, and the budget is reflective of that. The budget as an organization is also much larger, with a projected total income and expense of around $7,200. That's quite a substantial increase, but that again reflects the very large increase in membership we saw throughout the course of the year. The big point is that there's going to be a slight push on membership, and with any luck, we might have 90, hopefully more members by the end of calendar year 2020 over the 77 we have now. With the focus slowly migrating away from membership, focus will now be directed towards fundraising, and it's hoped that we'll be able to raise more money through donations of various sorts in support of the various things that the group does. The biggest expense this year, actually the biggest addition to the budget, is funding for an ALA booth. This is something the board discussed last week during the board meeting, and we think this is something that is definitely worth trying one time. Maybe we'll try it a second time. We really don't know. We want to see what happens with this first initiative. Those that have been with the group for a while will remember that we talked very briefly about having a booth at ALA in 2018, but we decided at the time that we weren't stable enough as a group in terms of funding or organization in order to be able to support that. we do feel we are at that point now, and so we're going to go ahead and request exhibitor space at a total projected cost of $3,500 for the upcoming membership year. That is easily the biggest expense outside of our conference itself, and even that pales in comparison to the rates that we are expected to pay, that any vendor is expected to pay when it comes to setting up an exhibitor space at ALA. It's really quite something. I really wonder how some of the smaller companies can afford to do this on a regular basis, because it really is not cheap. I did take a look. There is no discounted rate for nonprofits, and basically anybody in the hall is considered a vendor. Even an individual author sitting at their author's table is considered a vendor. And that, the category I just described is really the only type of person that is considered eligible for a discount, and it's really even not that much of one. So everything else is here in the budget. With any luck, we will have a total of about $1,000 being able to be put aside for discretionary funds at the end of the year. I will note that for the year that is just ending, 2019, we will have far surpassed the budgeted amount for discretionary income, and that's a very, very good thing. It's a pleasure to be able to report that to everybody at large. Let's see. We are undertaking some new technology expenses this year. We're going to go ahead and get our own Zoom room in conjunction with a tech soup offer. You'll see that outlined in the technology expenses. And one thing that I don't know if George has talked about this or not, we may consider renewing our membership, our domain name rather, for as long as we can, because of the fact that the organization responsible for .org name selling has now been sold to a for-profit organization, and there are rumors going around that domain name rates for .orgs will double, if not more, very shortly. So if we were to pay, say, for 5 years at once before the rates go up, that might only be $60 instead of whatever rate it would be if we only did single-year renewals. This is one thing that is not yet reflected in the budget. If we do decide to go this route, the final version of the budget would reflect $60 for domain registration, and some of the other amounts, most notably those in association with our conference, wherever it happens to be, those would be the numbers that would be reduced down slightly to accommodate the increase in funding for that single expense. See anything else out here? $600 for cash reserves. That is in line with the standard 10% of our income going put aside, not for discretionary income, but to ensure the financial viability of the organization in the event that things start to turn south. And that is in line with the same 10% that was put aside after 2018 and will be put aside from the 2019 funds when the budget year is complete. Other details as to how some of these numbers were generated are available for your perusal in the narrative. If anybody does have any questions about the budget as it's been constructed, I'm more than happy to address them.
Cool.
In the chat, Christopher asked if there's a discount rate for, since we're a nonprofit at ALA.
Yeah, I figured that was why John mentioned that there wasn't a discount rate for nonprofits. So
that is correct.
Okay. And I had not had a chance yet to talk about the sale of the, whatever organization it was that controls the .org things. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I kind of forgotten it. But that did happen last week, as the company that controls the ownership of .org domain names went from a nonprofit to a for-profit corporation. So, and there's rumors that it could really change the .org landscape. So if we're happy with koha-US.org, it wouldn't hurt to right now we're paying Google $12 a year for that. And if we can lock in 5 more years for $60, as opposed to paying $12 next year and then $50 a year after that, that would be a bargain, because nobody is sure what's going to happen there.
Yeah, that will be the one change that I will make to the budget, is increase that one number from 15 to $60 and decrease by some amount the various line items you see related to our conference. That will be the singular change. I'll make that change and present what will then be the final version to the board for its approval, and we would move forward with that then as the budget of record. Take it out of my pay, I dare you.
Yeah. I guess I have a quick question for John. Did we ever get the domain registration? I sent you the information to log into the admin.
You did send me that information. I have not yet done that, though.
Okay.
The one thing I did take care of, though, was the TechSoup thing.
Okay.
The TechSoup is done. The handling of the domain name is not. And I'm kind of glad I didn't do it when you sent it originally, because I now have a new debit card. There's a whole story behind it, but when they gave Lizette her debit card, they linked it to the account differently than mine had been. And when I asked them to fix that situation, they canceled my old debit card and gave me a new one so that everything would line up properly. And so had I acted upon the link, then I would have just had to go update it again. Now I don't have to do that. And so, Rhonda, when you get added as an authorized signer to the account, I'm going to go there with all the paperwork I have and tell my contact at the bank, who was a lovely woman named Megan, do it just like this, because this is beautiful, and it's got the account number and the fact that at that point in time, 3 debit cards are linked to it, and so on. So it doesn't happen very often, but procrastination saved me.
Cool. Well, my biggest concern, of course, is before you pay for 25 years of domain registration, make sure it's no longer being paid for from my credit card, please.
Absolutely.
I think it's on my Amex, and there isn't enough credit left on that card to go much more than a couple of years, probably. So.
Anything else with regard to the budget?
Let's see. Fundraising. Todd talked a little bit about Giving Tuesday. I didn't remember the exact numbers of how much we generated.
Let's see, by recollection, actually it might be in the Finance Committee report.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. If it's not there, because it hasn't been finalized yet. It'll be in January's, the final numbers, but by recollection, it was $1,400 from 1 corporate donor and 5 individual donors.
So not bad.
So quickly, I'd like to interject. Sorry if anybody's having a hard time hearing me. I'm playing volumes here on different things. But JC, when she sent out the contact us, she said, JC, you said 258 or 68 people actually looked at the email, and 100 and some odd people actually used the link?
Yeah, I can pull up the stats. Give me 1 second.
And of that, we had the one business, and then 5 people, and just about everybody really was on the board, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Todd is correct. Most of the individual donations came from the board. Not all, but most of them. I believe 4 out of the 5 were board members that gave on Giving Tuesday, or the day immediately after, using the Giving Tuesday link.
And John, a question for you. If we try to pursue, and whether it's this year or next year, if we try to pursue this year in particular, though, just kind of an end of year fundraising drive, is that page still up, and do you still have everything set up with PayPal that people can still go and make a contribution and feel like it's still somehow attached to Giving Tuesday?
The PayPal link is still active. I have no plans on disabling it. The way it gets disabled is if I delete it And if I were to delete the link and somebody does attempt to use it, it will just tell them that the link is not valid. There is specific wording that I can't remember at this time, but until I delete that link, the link will be valid, and I will not delete it until the fundraising committee says delete it. What I will say, though, is that in order for something to be counted in 2019 money, it needs to be made by December 31st. And the PayPal timestamp is basically the source, the record source for that. So anybody that pays with the 2019 Giving Tuesday link December 31st or earlier will have it included within our 2019 numbers. Even if they use the link, if it's after January 1st, it's going to be counted in the 2020 budget.
Correct. And so I wonder then, Jason, would it behoove us to go ahead and just hide that page then, take the Giving Tuesday page and just mark it out so it can't be seen or used?
Yeah, we can disable the page for sure.
Not that anybody's going to be around on the 1st, but.
Well, the last thing on the agenda then is we also skipped over the Finance Committee report. Is there anything that you didn't talk about already that we need to know about the finance report?
Let's see. Membership year budget drafted. We got our quarterly distribution from Amazon for a total of about $593. Membership. Looking for a third member to join the Finance Committee. So if anybody is interested in joining Eli, Candace, and me, they are more than welcome to send me an email at treasurer@koha-US.org. And the final membership number, and I say it is final now, it's definitively final because I disabled the form for membership for 2019. We are at 77 members to end 2019. Most of those were renewals. We had about 90% renewal. So I think it's 33. I have statistics on this in the master membership roster. I believe it was 30 out of 32 2018 members renewed. And so that 90% was the basis of the renewal number for 2020. That's really the first number we have because there wasn't membership before 2018. But I needed something to go by to generate a renewal percentage and calculate attrition. And so that's what I went with. So there are no more 2019 members coming in. The 2020 link will be activated when I send out all of the membership renewals. And of course, it will be active for new members to join at that time as well.
Cool.
And that's really it for the Finance Committee report.
All right, well, we've run out of time. According to the bylaws, at the end of this meeting, I'm no longer the president. So congratulations, President Lizette.
And thank you to past President George.
Yes, thank you, George.
And I'm trying not to clap too loudly because that would just be deafening. And you can't even see it because I don't have my camera on.
Yeah, I'm clapping too. Congratulations, Madam President.
And Fred is no longer the unsupported member at large. Rhonda is now the vice president. Congratulations, Rhonda.
Congratulations to Rhonda.
Congratulations.
And I think we're good to say the meeting's over.
But the conference
and
committee is
the conference committee, anybody that's sticking around for the conference committee meeting, stick around and we'll see the rest of you later. Thanks for coming.
Bye.